Well, we are finishing up this series, Time of Your Life. This is part 5, and if you haven't been with us and you don't normally attend our church or watch online, we take a series, and basically I talk about it until I run out of stuff to say and you're sick of hearing it. So we're at the very end of a series on time, the time of your life, and actually I don't just talk about it. We take these themes and trace them through the scriptures. And as we finish this up, quick review, and then I'm really, really excited about today's message. That doesn't mean it's good, it just means I'm excited about it. I'll tell you why in just a minute. We have used this whole series to basically expand on this simple idea in Psalm 90 where Moses prays this prayer, and many of us have begun praying this. This has become a regular part of my prayer time now as we've been talking about this past few weeks, where he says, teach us, this is a prayer, teach us to number our days that we might gain, or that I might gain, or that so that we could gain a heart of wisdom. The idea being that if we would live our life as if our days are numbered, because our days are numbered, that if we would make decisions and live as if our days are numbered, we would gain a heart of wisdom. We would make better decisions with our time because our time is limited. Now, that was sort of the big picture, and we talked about the fact that Moses said, remember that your life, your little itty bitty life, and your few 70 or 80 years are sandwiched between these two big ideas, everlasting to everlasting. And that really, he said, the only way to really find purpose in your few years is to understand how your little itty bitty short story fits with the great big story of God from everlasting to everlasting. Then after that, we spent 3 weeks talking about some very, very specific principles as it relates to time. And I would say time management, but I think time manages me way better than I manage it. So I don't know that time management's a good phrase, but the whole idea of leveraging our time to get things done and to basically make the best of our time. So today, as we finish this, I want to go back to sort of the big picture of time as we talk about the time of your life. And the reason I'm so excited about this message is it's from one of my favorite books of the Bible, and I've never ever preached a sermon from this book. I think you have to be over 50 before you can really appreciate this book. You probably shouldn't read it until you're 50, or you'll just go lay down in front of a train. I'll explain that in just a minute. If you're not a Bible reader, you should read this book because you don't even believe it's in there. In fact, you know some songs and some phrases have been lifted right out of this book, and you would be maybe someone who says, I don't believe the Bible, but you've been singing it, and you know that you're gonna be kind of freaked out about that maybe. This book is so unique because of who wrote it and why he wrote it. Let me kind of explain that. The book is Ecclesiastes. And the book of Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon. And King Solomon was uniquely positioned to write this book because King Solomon was the third king of Israel, and he reigned in Israel 3,000 years ago during the golden age of Israel. Now, here's why that's important. Solomon was brilliant. He was an architect. He was a scientist. He understood wealth. He understood power. He came from a great lineage with King David. He had been given actually by God an extra sense of understanding, an extra element of knowledge. In fact, the Bible says he's the wisest man who ever lived. People would come from all over the world, of the known ancient world, to ask Solomon difficult questions because he was so wise. But because he reigned during the golden age, he built the temple, Solomon's temple, and because there was peace on all of his borders, Solomon had the luxury that most kings never get. He had the luxury to sit and think because he wasn't fighting a war. He wasn't, dealing with border disputes. And so he decided to take his extensive wealth, his incredible influence, his extraordinary intellect, all of his wisdom and understanding, and the fact that he had peace on all of his borders, he decided that he was going to sort of plumb the depths of humanity and the understanding of humanity and answer the question once and for all, what is life all about? What is the purpose of life? And so he says in the book of Ecclesiastes that this is what he did. And so he experimented with everything. He experimented with marriage. He experimented with just sheer pleasure. He experimented with wealth, with poverty, with construction, with doing nothing, with idleness, with busyness. He looked at the relationship between the poor and the wealthy. He looked at the relationship between men and women. He looked at the relationship between children and their fathers. He looked at inheritance and what happens when money is passed on from generation to generation. He explored science. He explored everything he could possibly experience, that he could explore, and experienced everything he could possibly experience. And again, because he had vast wealth and vast influence and could do anything he wanted to, he devoted the latter years of his life to just what is life about and what makes sense and what should a person give their time to? What's the purpose of life? What's the best way to spend the time of your life? And then he wrote the book Ecclesiastes. And so today I'm going to teach you the entire book in one message. Now I'm not going to read you the whole book, but let me just warn you, okay? Because some of you are going to go looking for this. Don't read little bits and pieces of Ecclesiastes and say, I'll pick it up there tomorrow. It's very dangerous, okay? If you're gonna start it, you gotta finish it in one sitting. It was meant to be read all at one time, okay? So don't go out of here and go, I think I'll start. No. Now, Revelation, fine. Genesis, fine. Ecclesiastes, if you start it, you got to finish it. So I'm going to teach you the whole book, and hopefully you'll want to go home. But here's what he does in the book of Ecclesiastes. He starts off with his thesis statement. Remember in college or in high school, when you do a paper, you'd start with your thesis statement. So, Solomon decides, just in case they don't finish reading my whole book, I'm just going to give them the main idea right up front. So here's the thesis. Here's the bottom line. Here's his conclusion about life as he has explored life. The words of the teacher, a son of David, king in Jerusalem. Here we go. Meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Maybe we should just close in prayer and get lunch early, right? That's it. And everything else from in the book of Ecclesiastes goes in this direction. He says, I've explored everything, I've learned everything, I've seen everything, I've done everything, and my conclusion is meaningless, everything is utterly meaningless. But then he elaborates a little bit, helps us out. What does anyone gain from all the labors at which they toil under the sun? Yes, you in the back. Car, I got a car. Really, tell me about that car. What's my car? What are you gonna do with it? Drive it, how long? Till it gets old, then what are you gonna do? Trade it for what? Car. Then what are you gonna do? Drive it, then what? Trade it for what? Car. Solomon's going, that's my point. Okay, what is the point of that? You're gonna trade your car, your house, your iPod, your laptop, it's just, what do you really get? Some stuff. Well, what are you gonna do with your stuff? Use it, then what? Leave it to who? I don't know. What are they going to do with it? I don't know. He said, well, that's my point. In fact, throughout the whole book of Ecclesiastes, he talks about you accumulate stuff and maybe you're even wealthy and you're successful, and then your stuff gets left to your kids and they don't use it right, or it gets left to somebody else who benefits from all your hard labor. You work hard, somebody else benefits. It's kind of meaningless. He goes on. Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. This was his way of saying what we said a few weeks ago. That, you think you're special, but you're not, because you went to high school, and then maybe you went to college, and then you fell in love, and you got married, and you had some kids, and then maybe you got divorced and got married again, I don't know, or maybe a couple, 3 times and had some more kids, and then you retired and played golf and got sick and you died. And the day after you die, guess what happens? The sun came up and went all the way around the earth, so it appears, but actually the earth we know went all the way around the sun, right? And you think, well, I'm gonna be different, I'm gonna be special. He says, no, not really. It'll be a generation that comes and a generation that goes, but the earth just kind of goes on forever. Then he goes on and really cheers us up. What has been will be again. Okay, it's just gonna happen again. It just goes round and round. What has been done will be done again. Do you think you've done something special? No, you're just doing what somebody else has done, just a more modern version. And guess what? As cool and as wonderful as what you've done is, somebody's gonna come along and they're just gonna do it later, and everybody's gonna have forgotten what you did anyway. There is nothing new under the sun. You've heard that before, right? There's nothing new under the sun. It was written 3,000 years ago. It's in the Bible. There's nothing new, he says, under the sun. Now, he goes on and on and on and just talks about the futility of life, and it's chasing after the wind, and it's just awful, and you're not special, and life is quick, and you read this and you go, why is this in the Bible? Why is this at all? And if you're young, you think that's just depressing, and if you're old, you go, I knew it. I knew it. I like this guy, okay? I'm not so sure about Jesus yet. Now, this guy's speaking my language. This is how I feel. I work hard, and it's just futile. I look in the mirror and I'm getting older, and I've worked so hard, and for what? I'm just gonna leave all this stuff to my kids, and they don't even appreciate it, and my husband doesn't appreciate how hard I work, or my wife, and it's just, It's kind of meaningless, isn't it? I'm just doing what my dad did. In fact, I look in the mirror and who do I see? I see my dad looking back at me. Look in the mirror and you see your mom looking at you, and you're getting old and you're not as beautiful as you used to be. It's like, it's meaningless. How did he know? Now, I'm telling you, this is brilliant, okay? Remember, Solomon's the wisest guy that ever lived, okay? So he leads us down this path of utter meaningless. And again, you're young, you resist, you're gonna be different. And Solomon's going, in fact, as you read this book, he taunts his reader a little bit. Here's kind of how he taunts. He says, look, you think you're smarter than me. Just remember, I'm richer than you've ever dreamed of being. I'm more powerful than you will ever be. I have more resources than you can even imagine. And if you think that somehow you're wiser, have greater understanding, or smarter than me, you go ahead. You go ahead and try to squeeze some meaning out of life. I dare you. Go ahead and try to squeeze some meaning out of life. You go right ahead and try to prove me wrong. But when you're 50 or 60 years old, you're going to open up my 3,000-year-old book and go, dang it, he was right. I played right into this because I tried to find meaning. And it's just sort of like the sun comes up and goes down, and I'm just a reflection of the generation that was before me, and I'm just headed to the I'm no longer looking like the generation that's coming along after me that thinks they're going to be different. Now, here's the trick. Solomon's brilliant, and woven into this whole book is a secret. Woven into the whole book of Ecclesiastes is a secret key. And if you have the key, you can unlock the inner meaning of this brilliant, brilliant book. And if you don't understand the secret to Ecclesiastes, again, you just want to go lay down in front of a train eventually. The secret to understanding Ecclesiastes, because Solomon was so brilliant and he's messing with us, is this little phrase right here, under the sun. 29 times in the book of Ecclesiastes, we find the phrase, under the sun. And this is his subtle, brilliant way of saying this to us. If all there is to life is what we see under the sun, there is no meaning. If all there is to life is what we experience under the sun, what we see, hear, and feel, there is no meaning. If all there is to life is this life, if all there is to life is what's squeezed in between the bookends of our birth and our death, life under the sun, then it is chasing the wind, it is vanity, it is meaningless, it is round and round and round you go, and you end up where everybody else ends up. But he taunts us, and he baits us to look beyond the sun. In fact, he goes on and he says this as if that wasn't enough. I have seen something else, and there it is again, under the sun. I love this verse. I have seen something else under the sun. What have you seen under the sun? He says, I've seen this. The race is not to the swift. That is, sometimes the people who are quickest don't win. And or the battle to the strong. He goes on. Nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. He says, look, here's the reality that you've experienced. That there, under the sun, there is randomness that doesn't make any sense. Under the sun, sometimes the wicked prosper and the person that does the right thing is punished. Under the sun, the person that seems to, that does everything right to get ahead, suddenly the economy turns, and the person that's done nothing prospers, and the person that's worked hard is penalized. Under the sun, I've seen men or women who were faithful to their spouse get into their 30s or 40s, and suddenly they find themselves alone. And they did everything right, and their wicked old spouse who ran off and did things that they shouldn't do seem to prosper and are happier than anybody else they know. He said, I've seen that sometimes it's just random. It's just time and it's chance. And if you think you can figure out a box under the sun where everything fits together and everything makes sense, he says, you never will. I've tried. I've been there. I've tried to do that. Under the sun, you will always come up against the same barrier, the barrier of randomness. It just doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it works out, but sometimes it doesn't work out. There's too much unpredictability under the sun. But he taunts us, and he baits us, and he forces us to ask the question, but what if? But what if there is something beyond the category of under the sun? In fact, throughout the book, he sort of leans into this idea that the futility of life under the sun is what actually forces us or encourages us to look beyond life under the sun. That it's the very thing that causes us to ask the question, and it causes us to look up and say, there's got to be more than this, because this isn't working. This doesn't make sense. Every once in a while it makes sense, and every once in a while it works out. But as I look at what happens all around the world and in different countries and different cultures and how the innocent suffer, I just have to conclude there's got to be something more than this, because this doesn't make sense, and I can't make sense of this. And Solomon smiles and he says, now you're beginning to understand that under the sun is meaningless and futility, but perhaps there's something beyond life under the sun. And then he begins throughout the book to hint at it and to lead us toward it. He says this is so powerful. He says, talking about God, right in the middle of all this meaningless futility, things don't work out, the wicked prosper, the people who do things right, things don't work out for them. He has made everything, God has made everything beautiful in its time. Now, maybe a better kind of blown out translation of this is what I'm about to say. He says, in the midst of the meaninglessness, in the midst of the randomness, in the midst of things that don't make sense, every once in a while, we stumble upon something that is so beautiful. And in that moment, we go, oh, look at that. That makes me think there must be more to this life than this life. And we stumble into a relationship, or we see something, or we hear something, or somebody shows us something, and we sort of, everything else goes out of focus, and it's like, wow, look at that. That kind of makes me believe there might be something more than just this life. Friday, I was with a friend of mine. We come out here sometimes to the North Point Community Church and walk around the parking lot, just exercise. We used to run, now we walk, okay? I don't want to talk too much about that. Anyway, so now we're out there walking, and this guy is self-employed, and right now he's self-employed, which means he has a job, but he has no income, okay? So he's employed without income because he's self-employed. And he used to be, very successful financially. And we've been talking about it for months. We're very, very good friends. And we talk about things are bad, and are things going to get any better, just like all of you do. And then in the middle of our time around the parking lot Friday, he says, he said, I got to tell you, I got a letter from my daughter, and he says her name. I got her letter. She's in college. He said, just out of the blue, my daughter sends me this letter. And he talks about, she wrote and said, thank you for what you're doing, and you're keeping me in school, and I know things are hard, and I just love you and Mom, and thank you. And he stopped. He said, remember a long time ago when you did that series called Where's God, There's God? I said, yeah. He said, in the midst of all this stuff that doesn't make sense, and I've done everything right, and I've been honest and dealt right with my customers, and things just haven't gone my way. And then it's like, right in the middle of all that, there's this letter from my daughter, and I think, there's God. That in the midst of all of the junk, every once in a while we stumble upon something that's beautiful, that God made, and it causes us to lift our eyes out of underneath the sun and say, maybe it's not just the bookends of my birth and my death. Maybe there's a broader context. And then this next verse is unbelievable. You may have heard this before and didn't know it was in the Bible. This next verse, 3,000 years old. This has been sitting on your shelves, and you didn't know it all of your life, some of you, because you don't read the Bible. This next verse, I'm telling you, it's astounding. Here's what Solomon says. He has, God, same part of the passage, he has also set, I just want us to say it together. Even if you're at home watching, just say it out loud. He has said what? Eternity. He has set eternity in the human heart. Now, this is powerful. Solomon says, you know what? Under the sun, it's meaningless. Under the sun, it's random. But there's something in the human heart, regardless of your religion, regardless of your tradition, there's something in the human heart that longs for there to be something beyond this life. It's not a religious category. It's not a theological category. It is part of the human heart. It's why in every single civilization, in every single tradition, in every single culture, in every single nation in the world, the majority of people have always looked beyond life under the sun and wondered and hoped that there was something else and something else better It's not religious. It's something God put in the human heart. It's why every once in a while, every 15 or 20 years, a group of writers will come along in the United States and they'll write books about why we shouldn't believe in God and there's not a God and scientists don't need there to be a God for there to be an earth, and they'll sell a bunch of books and culture, it's so funny, it happens over and over. And culture will be like, oh, look, and everybody will read the books and they'll be like, oh no, there's no God, we don't need God. And then after about 15 minutes, it's like, and they just put them away. And they keep believing anyway. You know why? Because this isn't science. This isn't theology. It's in your heart to know and to believe there's something other than what's under the sun. And Solomon says, aha, now you understand the paradox. Now you understand the conflict. Now you'll quit trying to find purpose within this life and this life only, because God has put eternity in your heart. And you can reason it away and it won't go away. And you can have a bad church experience and it won't go away. And you can decide you're mad at God and it won't go away. And you can quit going to church and it won't go away. And you can burn your Bible and it won't go away. And you can be mad at Christians and it won't go away. And you can talk about how bad religion has been for society and all the wars that have been started about religion. And at the end of the day, when you're all alone, it won't go away. You just can't help but think about, what if there's something beyond life under the sun? God put it in your heart. You can't help it. It's not going to go away. Then look at this next part. Isn't this amazing? It's in the Bible. You should read the Bible. Okay. Look at this. He's also said eternity in the human heart, yet, now this will help you. I love this. This is like, I should put my initials on this part of this verse. Yet no one can fathom. Who can fathom? No one. That's me, that's you, that's all of us. Yet no one can fathom what God has done. No, wait, Solomon, now you're confusing me. So what you're saying is, okay, so life under the sun sometimes is random and meaningless, and I can't make it work, and bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people, and it's not an equation, and yet you're saying God has done something? Solomon says, oh yeah, God's busy. God's doing something. God is everlasting to everlasting. God has a plan. History is linear. Life under the sun is round and round and round and round, and everything's the same and nothing's new. But out from underneath life under the sun, God is doing something, and the human and humanity can't fathom what God is doing. And in our hearts we go, I knew it. I knew there had to be more to life than this. No one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. Next verse. I know that everything, God, there it is again. Now, Solomon, you're the one who just told us it's all meaningless. He says it's meaningless under the sun. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear him. So now he points to this experience. We've all had it, and you would put different words on it, may describe it differently. This experience of life under the sun is kind of random. Life under the sun is painful. Life under the sun doesn't work out. And yet I believe there's something beyond that. If I'm a Christian, I shape it around my Christianity. If you're a different religion, maybe you shape it around your different thoughts. Or if you just sort of believe in a general God, you shape it in a different way. But there's mystery. And there's part of it we can't comprehend. And Solomon says, I know why God does that. So that at the end of the day, there's awe and there's reverence and there's respect for God, who is beyond what we experience and see under the sun. Wow. Then he goes on and he addresses one of the things we'd love for him to address. I said to myself, God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked. For there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. To which Solomon says, you know what? Under the sun, there is so much injustice. Under the sun, there is so much that doesn't make sense. But because there is eternity in my heart, and because God is a righteous God, I know there will be a time when all that is evil will be dealt with, and all the injustice will be addressed. And even though I'll never make sense of it in the little box of under the sun, I live my life knowing that righteous God will do the right thing at the right time. And then he concludes the book with this. This is the final verse, 2 verses in the book. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Ready for this? Fear God and keep his commands. Fear God and keep his commands. Fear God and keep his commands, for this is the duty of every human being. Fear God and keep his commands. But God, I was like fearing you and keeping your commands and things went bad for me. Fear God, keep my commands. Okay, but I was fearing you and keeping your commands, and she wasn't fearing you and keeping her commands. Now she's got all my money and she's happy, and I don't have any place to live. God's going, just respect me, keep my commands. But it's not working for me. I know that. Fear me, respect me, honor me, keep my commands. But it doesn't make sense. It's never gonna all make sense under the sun. But I'm doing something. So just fear me and keep my commands. That, Solomon says, is the mystery of life and how it all fits together. The randomness should not surprise us under the sun. But there's more to life than under the sun because you know that. That's because you have eternity imprinted on your heart. Now, with all that in mind, I want to say 4 things really quick. First, I want to say something to all the students, all high school students, college students. Look up here. I'll give you some advice. Every single morning, every single evening, pray, God, show me your will for my life. Students, listen. You get to get it right the first time. I don't. You get to get it right. You get to leverage your few years right the first time. You get to live your life unconfused and refusing to be confused by the randomness and the way that things go, because you have the opportunity as a 20-something-year-old, as a 16-year-old, as a 15-year-old to wake up every day and say, God, I want to know your will for my life. As much as you'll reveal it, I want to know it and I want to do it. I want to honor you and I want to keep your commands. I want to keep your commands when it works out for me. I want to keep your commands when it doesn't work out for me, because I'm not going to spend my life trying to make it all make sense. I want to spend my time, the time of my life between my birth and my death. I want to live it in such a way that honors you. And I'm telling you, students, I'm just telling you, there are people in this room and watching who are in their 50s and 60s that would love to go back and do it over. And you get to get it right because now you know. Singles, out of college, singles, do not embrace the myth that if you can just find the right person or the right thing, you will have the ultimate and everything will be right in your world. It's chasing the wind. And if you spend your single years singly focused on finding that right person or that right thing, you are wasting some of the best years of your life. And if you spend the single years thinking, if I can just find, then if I can, then I know it will. If I can, then I know it will. Solomon says, no, you're chasing the wind. That's not how it works. That your greatest opportunity with the time that you have as a single person is to find something with purpose that goes even beyond this life, and pour your extra time into it. And I know what you think. You think, well, I don't have all that much extra time. Let me just tell you, those of us who are married with kids, we laugh at you. We laugh, okay? Now, it's not that we don't love you and we don't have respect for you, but I sit around with Sandra sometimes and I think, what did I do when I was single? Okay, if I subtract everything related to marriage and everything related to kids, did I just sleep 12 or 15 hours a day? What did I do? Now, here's the deal. I have that perspective because of how much time has gone by. You have a unique, I know you may hate being single. You can't wait to not be single. That's okay. In fact, in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon addresses some of those very issues. It's a good thing to fall in love. It's a good thing to find a great husband or a great wife. But in the meantime, don't devote all of your time to finding the person or the thing that will completely fulfill you. It doesn't happen. It's a vapor. It's a wind. Here's your best bet. Your best bet is to pour your extra time into something that has purpose beyond the bookends of your life. And perhaps while you pour that extra time into something that has purpose beyond the bookends of your life, you'll look to your left or your right and you'll find somebody who's doing the same thing, who's honoring God and keeping his commands. And perhaps you'll fall in love around a purpose, not just trying to get filled up with something that's not gonna fill you up for the rest of your life. You get to do this part of your life right, because there's more to life than what's under the sun. If you're married, he addresses this specifically. He says, married people, love and cherish and enjoy your husband and your wife. And if you have children, love and cherish and enjoy the children of your youth. So listen to me, parents especially. Do not, and dads, come on. Do not trade the integrity of your relationship with your children for a job somebody else is gonna have, a car somebody else is gonna drive, a house somebody else is gonna live in, or a vacation that somebody else would be able to take. Because you'll get to a stage in life and you'll look back and you will wish you could go back and trade all of that for an opportunity, your best opportunity to invest in something that outlives you and impacts the next generation. It's your one shot. Don't screw that up chasing the wind, chasing things that are meaningless, chasing things that somebody else is gonna own, somebody else is gonna enjoy someday. And Solomon drills down on that in the book of Ecclesiastes. He says, don't miss that opportunity because it comes and it goes. And there are men and women listening to this message, sitting in this room or watching online, that would love to go back and they would trade all of the stuff and all of the experiences for a relationship with a son or daughter that is now a relationship of mutual respect, but it's gone because they traded it, chasing the wind, trying to find meaning under the sun alone, and have discovered now it can't be done. And Solomon warned us 3,000 years ago. And for those of you who are empty nesters, you already knew all this, didn't you? You're not taking notes. It's like, yep. So let me say something to you. Don't you run off to some retirement thing, okay? Don't disappear to the lake. Don't disappear to the golf course. We need you. You are the only group among us that can bring real life experience, a punctuation mark to everything we've said today. You are the punctuation. You are the living illustration of how quickly life goes, how valuable relationships is, how silly it is to chase things that somebody else is gonna own, wear, and live in, and drive someday. You know, in our generation, the 30-year-olds and the 40-year-olds and the 25-year-olds, we need your input, and without it, we are more than likely will just chase the wind like all the generations, most people who've come along before us. We need you. You say, well, nobody's gonna listen to me. Nobody's gonna listen. My kids won't even listen to me. Okay, your kids may not, but there's probably some other kids that will. Come on, listen. You have spent the majority of your life gaining the knowledge and the insight and the wisdom that our generation needs. You say, but Andy, I've made so many mistakes. Okay, well, at least serve as a bad example. I mean, everybody has a purpose. You can just be a bad example. Now, you think I'm kidding. You know what? I'm gonna give you an email address. I want you to write this down. If you're an empty nester, I need you to email this address and say, Andy told me to email and tell you I'm available to help. You know where we need your help? Did you know we have engaged couples that we'd love to hook you and your husband or wife up with an engaged couple and to go through a curriculum, and all you have to do is just read together and just talk about your life experience as a newlywed. That's all we want you to do. Even if it's here's 8 things to never do. Okay, we can't tell you what to do. Here's 8 things never do, and then read this book, okay? We have couples that don't have that kind of relationship with their own parents and would love the wisdom of your years. You know what else we'll do if you'll email us and let us know? We'll set you up in a community group. If you'll just do a short training with us, we want to set you up in a community group of newlyweds. They will think you're experts. They are dumb newlyweds. They don't know. Okay? They're still in love. They're still all ooey gooey, okay? And we're gonna put you in a circle, and there's gonna be about 6 couples, and they're just all gonna be, and it's gonna be your veterans, okay? You fought the wars and raised the kids, okay? You've been there and done this. We wanna put you in a group. We want to leverage the time of your life for the sake of a future generation. This may be your best opportunity to do something outside the boundaries of life under the sun. If all there is under the sun, then play golf. If all there is under the sun, then go to some retirement community with a bunch of old people your age and play bridge and chess. That's absolutely fine. But eternity is in your heart. You know better. You know better. So don't do that. Leverage the time of your life for the sake of the generation that needs to know what you've learned and seen what you've seen. We'll put the verse back up there from Psalm 90. Here's the conclusion. Teach us the number of our days, that we might gain a heart of wisdom. Live as if your days are numbered. But live as if your days are numbered by God, who has given you purpose beyond what you see and experience under the sun. Live as if your days are numbered and gain a heart of wisdom and leverage that wisdom for a purpose that goes beyond simply what you can see. And it goes beyond simply the bookends of your short life. Every day of your life, pray this prayer. Teach me to number my days. Teach me to live as if my days are numbered, but numbered by you and numbered by you for a purpose. Show me your will so that I am fully leveraged for something bigger than me, broader than my few years under the sun, something that attaches to the grand story of God. God who, as Solomon said, is doing something. God who is doing something that's beyond our comprehension, but God who is doing something and we just know that he is, because eternity is in your heart. Live as if your days are numbered, but numbered by a heavenly Father who has invited you in to a story much grander than your story will ever be. Let's pray together. Father, none of us can really argue with Solomon. But our confusion sometimes is just around, so now what? Now what? What do we do with that? So would you please show us? And Father, as we turn off the computer or walk out the door and we go right back into the world that has not changed, nothing has changed out there. Would you please, please, please instill in our heart whatever it is you know that we need to take us in that next step. Father, I pray that you would raise up hundreds and hundreds of married couples that would be willing to pour their lives into younger couples. I pray that you would raise up thousands of teenagers who say, enough of living as if all there is life under the sun. That you'd raise up thousands of singles in our churches who would say, I'm gonna spend these single years with purpose, not trying to find the thing or the person that's gonna magically fulfill me for the rest of my life. Father, I pray that there would be men, husbands, fathers who would decide, I'm not going to miss what's happening in my home for the sake of something that means nothing. It's a vapor, it's chasing the wind. And that we would live, not just think, we would live as if our days are numbered, but numbered with a purpose, numbered by our Father in heaven. So please give us the wisdom to know what to do with what we've just heard. And then just give us the courage to do it. In Jesus' name, amen.